Hey there, cats and kittens. Marlboro Man from WHAM Radio and new WHAM TV. Coming right at you from beautiful downtown Berwyn, Illinois, with America's favorite co-host, Miss Anarchist.
Hi guys, this is Anarchist coming to you from the dark side of the moon, and we got ourselves a great show tonight. We're going to be talking about misconceptions about Christianity, government, anarchy, capitalism, and socialism. And I'm sitting here with our new guest, Agent Blake Jackson.
Hey guys, it's Agent Jackson coming at you from the front lines of battle and exposing the tyranny.
Here on We Have a Mutiny Radio. At the top of the show tonight, we're going to thank our sponsors. First of all, our donors, Familia Fresh Markets. We also have Waldo Cooney's Pizza, Marlboro Man's favorite pizza, and Abel DeValente, tailoring and dry cleaning services.
Oh, thank you so much, Marlboro Man. Now, we wanted to talk about misconceptions tonight, especially on these few topics here, because a lot of people, of course, have misconceptions about these concepts. Now, let's talk about, first off, Christianity, which a lot of people are definitely, misconceived about Christianity. And I wanted to ask you, Marlboro, like, what would be, in your opinion, the very first misconception that people would have about Christianity?
I think the number one misconception that people have about Christianity is that it is exclusive, that it excludes people, that it doesn't want to include people. And I think that's one of the main misconceptions, thinking that they can't go to church or they can't be a Christian because they won't be accepted by the group, by the other Christians, or by the church, or something like that. And I'm here to tell you that's completely wrong. That's actually the opposite of what Christianity is. Christianity is a very accepting religion. We actually want people to join and come in to the church. We want people to try to do the Christian thing, the right thing, and that has nothing to do with racism or it has nothing to do with racism or how much money you have or
being baptized.
Yeah, it really, it's an inclusive religion is what it is. And in order to be a true Christian, the reality of it is you're just trying to help other people and to try to do the right thing, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's hard. Sometimes, Christianity involves making sacrifices for the benefit of somebody else.
No.
Oh, well, I think, in my opinion, I think one of the most largest misconceptions about Christianity is that Christianity was around way before Jesus Christ in the form of Gnosticism.
Yes, that's correct. That's correct, Dan. And in fact, another misconception about Christianity is that not helping homeless people is somehow a Christian thing, but in actuality, Christianity is all about helping homeless people. Whenever we see somebody that's downtrodden or down and out or sick or something like that, it is our duty as Christians to throw everything off and simply help that person, as uncomfortable as that may be. One of the main things about being a Christian is to go and help those who can't help themselves. So that, I would say, is like the first number one thing right there.
I totally agree. Now, I'm not claiming to be a Christian because I don't follow a particular doctrine, but do I work with Christians? Yes, I do, because they're usually the most open people to work with. Now, one of the major things that people get misconceived about Christians are the Catholics. Those are the ones that are the most inclusive group, and they have very similar doctrines. Okay, they also have very similar congregations and stuff like that. But when it comes to like the one thing I see on Facebook and social media the most is like the atheists claiming that Christians hate on them, and that Christians are like the most violent group towards them or towards any other group, when I mostly see the Catholics doing that. And a lot of people who have followed the Catholic faith are usually the most they're the ones that want to see you go to hell. They're the ones that pray to God, and say, God, smite my enemies. Christians don't do that. Usually Christians are the first ones to sit there and ask God, can you please help the person, find their way, or they usually pray for you,
Yeah, case in point, I used to be a Catholic, and I oftentimes it would come up, a lot of people would say, oh, well, we have to save you from that. And I'd be like, well, why would I want to be saved from Catholicism? It's like being part of a super cool club. You get invited to all the best parties, and lots of drugs and alcohol and sex. And it took me a while to realize that, wait a second, drugs and sex and partying is not supposed to be what Christianity's about. And it really took me a while, because, when you're a Catholic, that's like all they do. And they kind of make you believe that that's what it is. That's what it's about. And because you're Catholic, no one else can be a part of this, just you. And like, it's a special invitation.
Right. Another misconception I see most people have about Christianity is that Jesus Christ needs to be worshipped. Now, I know a lot of people are going to frown upon what I'm about to say, but I have to be honest about what I'm talking about, because I do believe in Jesus Christ as a teacher. I don't believe in Jesus Christ as my Savior, though. Jesus is not going to come from the sky and rescue me because I'm, a bad person. The only person who can save me is me, with wisdom, knowledge, enlightenment, experience in, doing things the right way. Now, from what I've seen is, the biggest issue that I see in most of the religions is idol worship. So there's a lot of idolatry going on. When people are sacrificing their time and their money and their energy into worshiping of idols, which also does include Jesus Christ. And the biggest misconception about Jesus Christ is that he did not want to be worshipped. He did not want a church. That is why he created a ministry at 33. He didn't start an actual church. There was no brick and mortar church. It was him walking around, teaching his followers day to day, going from house to house, whoever would let him be there, and to enlighten them with the knowledge that they needed to overcome their oppressors of their time, which rings true to today. A lot of things that Jesus Christ has taught in his ministry does carry over to today, especially when it comes to tyranny, especially when it comes to government and fake churches and tithing and taxes. And there's literally a whole laundry list of things that Jesus Christ taught about, all those many years ago, that are still very true to this day, that I see that is going on, and people are very blind to it. So, like I said, I don't worship Jesus Christ in the way that a typical Christian would, but I do believe in his teachings, and I do believe that his teachings are very true, and they're very relevant to this day and age, such as helping people that cannot help themselves.
And that's another misconception. Nobody gets it wrong more than Christians, by the way, themselves. But that's another misconception. A lot of people think that you become a Christian, then you have to give it money. And that's not true at all. We give it away for free. We want to, spread the word, the teachings of Jesus, and we do that at no charge. We're simply trying to help enlighten people. And I'd also like to point out, since you were mentioning Jesus' time, You know, it's unfortunate that there's a lot of Christians out there today that believe that being a Christian means being anti-gay or anti-LGBT community. And that's simply not the case. We're supposed to be accepting of those people regardless of what they, you know, do behind closed doors. I mean, really, who cares about that? Where that belief comes from, though, is back in Jesus's time. There, you know, the majority of people were actually gay. And so a lot of the people that were doing harm to others just happened to be gay, like in the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. Mm-hmm. So when you read it like that and when you look at it like that, sure, I can understand where people get that impression. But the fact of the matter is that's got nothing to do with a person's, sexual orientation. And it has nothing to do with who a person is and how they see fit to help other people.
And usually that's the Catholics that really, you know, they really hammer on the anti-homosexuality, the anti-LGBT. That's really the Catholics. You know, it's not so much the Christians. Believe me, the Christians would rather pray for you than hope that you'd burn in hell. Catholics want to see you burn in hell for any reason.
You know, that's a great point, and that a lot of people do want someone else to do their dirty work for them. And that's a lot of the reason they join groups in the first place, kind of like a gang. You know, when gang members go and recruit kids in school, the thing that the main selling point is that, oh, we'll protect you. We'll protect you from, you know, the bad guys, the police and the bullies and whoever else. I don't know, whoever else they see as the bad guys. But Christians, it's not like that. It's not like that at all.
I think we're going to turn over the topic. I know, Blake, I know you're really knowledgeable, and I know how much you love to talk about this, but government. Government is actually the opposite of Christianity, because if you really pay attention to what Christianity teaches, they teach people to be independent and to be self-governed, which the Catholics don't teach that at all, but the Christians really do. But in government... for example, the actual word government in Latin, gubernmente, guberne, which is Latin for to control, and mente, M-E-N-T-E, is the mind. So government in Latin, in translation to English, means to control the mind. So if you think about it, government was put here by people, because it didn't fall from the sky. It didn't, come from the pits of hell. It literally was conceived by human beings. These are all human concepts that were created by us. And that was meant to control people. So everybody thinks, by putting a politician up on top, the president, prime minister, they got so many labels for all the same positions. Like, literally, prime minister and president is literally the same job. And basically, government is just a way of mind control for the people, whereas Christianity or anarchy is freedom.
And they like to distract people with these elections all the time. And I'm not necessarily talking about like a presidential election, but there's all these different local and state elections that go on and on and on. And the fact of the matter is that our actual system of government that we have in this country, which is a republic, by the way, allows for perfectly legally for the people to at any time remove and replace people in office that they don't think are doing a good job. And no election is necessary for that. You don't have to go through, term limits or anything like that.
Right.
We could just go there and say, hey, look, we don't think you're doing a good job, but we'd rather have this guy, and it can happen just that easily. Of course, they don't want you to believe that. They don't want you to know about that, but that's the truth. Our government illegally allows us to do that.
Not only that, if you think about it, every time you put another person on top, all you're doing is just perpetuating the same cycle over and over. It's just got a different face, a different color, same suit, different chair, different label. I mean, they literally do the same job over and over again. Don't you think, Josh?
Yep. And another thing, I highly disagree with having people trying to control other people. See, if you think about it, if, let's say, 10 people come up to you and want your bike, are you going to seriously give it to them?
No.
I don't think you are. You're going to want to fight for it, right? Then why are you freely just letting them steal your money? Think about that,
that's
seriously.
basically what they teach us what democracy is.
Food. They double tax it. Not supposed to, but they do.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing, why is it free to train people to murder, but yet it costs hundreds of thousands to go to fucking school?
To save a life.
Exactly.
It's free in this country if you want to kill somebody and you want to learn how to be an efficient killer, but if you want to learn how to save people's lives, you got to pay through the nose for that.
Yeah, exactly. And prime example, 3 different places tried to get $5 out of me for my inhaler. Then one was $4, and then finally we were able to get both my meds, and they wanted what was it, $5.29?
No, $5.
Yeah, they wanted $5 just to keep my ass alive, and so I could breathe.
But that was the best deal because you got both of your medications for that.
And yes, that is true. But see, if you think about it, if hospitals are here to help, why make you copay? Seriously, why?
That's a great question.
And 2, if, let's say you go to the doctor, they say, oh well, you know, take these pills, they'll help you. Take the pills. But yet, someone says no, they'd rather, you know, have natural remedies, but yet the doctor says, no, pills are better for you. What does that tell you? Seriously.
It's just about the money.
That they need customers and not cures.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate truth. That's the end. We're going to take a brief pause now, and we're going to read one of our very important public service announcements. This public service announcement, Familia Fresh Market wants to remind you, in order to prevent grill fires, always pre-soak your coals in lighter fluid for at least 10 minutes before lighting to avoid excessive fluid use and hazardous fire conditions. This very important public service announcement brought to you by Familia Fresh Market, located right across the street from McNeil Hospital on Oak Park Avenue in Berwyn, Illinois.
All right, so back to the show, guys. So again, when it comes to government, government literally dips its hands in everything. It touches every aspect of our lives. It touches the schools. It touches the churches. It touches just about almost anything. You can label it, and it's got its fingers in it. Your house, your car. My favorite one is like talking about cars, because if you think about it, for example, if you look at the plate sticker on your car, it says, if you read the fine print, it says for official use only. Did you know that as long as you got that sticker on your car, even if you paid for that car in cash, or if you're still making payments to that car, you think you might own that car, but as long as you got that little sticker that costs about $200, just to let you know, the government can take that sticker and sell it to you for $200. But if I took that same sticker and tried to sell it to you for the same price, you guys would say I'm extorting money from you guys now, right? Now, when it says for official use only, that means that any time the government can commandeer your car, it can literally take your car away from you whether you want it to or not.
So in other words, you own that car until you put the sticker on it, then you no longer own it.
Right, so as long as you pay for that sticker, then that means you don't own your car, and that any time a government official, a politician, anybody who has any government office whatsoever, so cops, politicians, senators,
city
workers, they could take your car from you anytime they want, because that sticker means that the government owns your car. That's what registration means. When you register your car, you forego ownership of your car, and you hand it over to the government. Same thing with birth certificates,
Yep.
licenses,
Mm-hmm.
any kind of paperwork document that you have to submit in order to even obtain any type of use of those kind of like items. So, for example, another example is a driver's license. I'm a very strong believer that driving is a right, not a privilege, because you know you could learn how to drive, but you can't unlearn how to drive. Like, all of a sudden, when they take your license away from you, all of a sudden you just, forgot how to drive because they took your license away. Your ability to know how to hit the gas and turn the wheel and stuff like that just drops off the face of the planet because the government decided you don't need your license, or they took it away from you because you don't deserve it.
Well, we fool ourselves into believing that that system is in place for safety reasons, and that, well, we should know who's behind the wheel, and that they actually know how to drive, and if they don't drive safe, they should have their license taken away from them. We fool ourselves into believing that, but the reality of the situation is we could easily do that on our own. We don't need any authority to do that. A teacher, I have a question. Why is my education any of the government's business anyway?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, good point.
It's true. Like, whatever I put into my head is government property. Might as well get a sticker on my ass.
That's coming soon to a DMV near you.
Well, yeah, now they're going to do the whole microchip thing, so it's like, that's basically your license, your ID. Everything is going to be in that little microchip. And don't think for a minute that they're not going to do it, because they are. They've been testing the system for many, many years, and if you actually look into what China is doing, they got what is called the social credit system. So basically, they're testing the system overseas before they decide to move it over here to the States, because we're still too free for them to try to lock us down like that. So they have to do it in increments, in small little increments, but they got to test the system first. So basically, the social credit system in China, and believe me, or even better, don't believe me, look it up yourself. Basically, what the social credit system is a microchip that you get put into your hand, where it literally monitors everything you do, from your social media sites all the way down to the food you eat, and even to the people that you associate yourself around. So you get a credit score just like you would, like Experian, TransUnion, a credit score like you would get, like you would get here to get a car or to get a house. But now your credit score can now be impacted by who you affiliate yourself with. So if you got a friend who is very anti-establishment or very pro-freedom, then they'll just being affiliated with that person will drop your credit score, or your social credit score, because really it's social, meaning like, Facebook, Twitter, talking to the wrong person, because if their score is low and they know that you're around that person, that means that's going to drop your score because you're spending too much time and you're learning too much.
One thing we can do to fight the system on this is to stop using credit cards, stop paying for things over the internet with their phones and whatnot, and stop using banks. Just go back to cash only. Just go back to a strictly cash system and do not use credit at all. None of us here use credit. I've never used. As a matter of fact, here's a good story. I was in third grade, and this is a class full of third graders. I think it was 1980 something, because I'm as old as dirt. But we're looking at the assignment was just to look through the newspapers, and we're supposed to pull an article out of there to talk on. Well, of course, kids kept coming across the car ads for cars, and we're all third graders. We all wanted to get a car, so we couldn't wait for that. And, everyone's looking at each other, and we're going, oh my God, I can't believe what a low price these cars have. There's $100 a month, or there's $100, $150, $250, $500, and we asked the teacher, we're like, wow, like how come they sell these cars so cheap that to a third grader a few $100 seems very attainable to get a vehicle? And the teacher has to explain to everybody, no, that's a monthly payment. You pay that each month until you pay the car off, and the entire class calls them out on it and looks at each other like like it's crazy, and looks at the teacher and goes, well, why wouldn't you just save the money that it costs to buy the car in the first place and pay cash? Why would you get credit? That doesn't make any sense at all. And no answer, of course, to this question. The teacher just shrugs her shoulders and goes, some people do that, I guess. But honestly, like, why? Yeah, think about that. Like,
another example with why credit is so evil is one thing I ran into moving from county to county was it's literally financial discrimination. They tell you equal opportunity housing. They lie to you and they say equal opportunity housing. But what they don't tell you is we will discriminate you financially. So if you don't have a credit score, you're not good enough to have a roof over your head, even though housing and shelter should be a right. It is a right for every human being on the face of this planet to have. You know, the three basic things, food, water, shelter, should always be a basic right. And what they tell us is, if you don't have credit, you're homeless. And that was something I ran into all the time. I had the money for housing all the time, no problem paying for it, but because I had no credit, I deserved to be homeless. And it doesn't matter if I have a job or how long I've been at the job. You know, it made me laugh because I literally saw, with my own eyes, people literally struggling to put the basic essentials in front of them. And then, going into the next topic of capitalism, they tell you that you're not working hard enough to get those things, even though I busted my butt off, 30, 40 hours a week, had the money, got a weekly paycheck, and that was just not good enough for them. And it's like, well, my money's not green enough because I don't have a credit union backing me up.
One thing we can do to change this and to fight the system on this issue is to stop renting from places that require a credit check at all. The next time somebody says, well, they require a credit check, just tell them, oh, well, I'm sorry, I don't do business with people that require a credit check, because a credit check means absolutely nothing. You're just collecting that money for yourself. Whether they are or they aren't, doesn't matter. It's the fact is that all you have to do is tell them, look, we're not dealing with people that check a credit score because it doesn't mean anything. And eventually, after they go out of business, which they will, somebody will come along and put up a new, business there that doesn't require credit checks, because, nobody's going to be, just stop dealing with people that require credit checks. It means nothing, and it speaks to character in no way at all. At one time that were true, but not anymore.
Like another thing that really grinds my gears about the credit system, and even when it comes to rentals, why is it that the landlord is allowed to ask you for so much sensitive information, Social Security, your bank information, your work information, like all this sensitive information that you would never hand off to a regular everyday person, which a landlord is still a regular everyday person. I don't see a Star of David badge on his chest and he's saying I'm the landlord police or some stuff like that, or he's got like some high authority. They're literally allowed to ask for very private, very sensitive information, but yet you can't ask for the very same information back. Like, hello, Mr. Landlord, you want my Social Security number, you want to look at my private bank statements, you want to look at my pay stubs with all my sensitive information on it. Can I get your bank statements? Can I get your Social Security number?
Tit for tat.
You would think that there should be at least equal exchange on that information. Like, well, Mr. Landlord wants to know if you are who you say you are. Well, I want to know if Mr. Landlord is who he says he is too.
Matter of fact, I had somebody call me today for one of my employees, and they were at it was a similar situation. They're trying to get housing. rental, and the person's asking me questions, and so everything was okay. Well, then they asked me, do I know where the person lives? And I said, well, yes, I know where the person lives. But then they asked me, well, what is the address? And I said, well, I can't give that out. That's confidential information. I'm sorry. I said, you do understand that that's confidential information, and I can't give that out. And they said, yes, we do. And they went on to the next question. Well, why then why ask in the first place? Because you know why? Someone is dumb enough to answer that question and give out someone else's sensitive information.
Yeah, that's true. Wouldn't you say so too, Blake?
Yep. Yep, I do. And two, you never know who could be a hacker or proxy code cracker. So why would you give off your information to somebody? And honestly, I don't care if it's a cop or not. You don't know if that cop's a hacker or that bank teller's a hacker or who the hell's a hacker. You don't know that.
That's a great point. You can't trust any of the people that you used to be able to trust in society anymore. You used to be able to trust, like, people who work at a bank. You used to be able to trust, a police officer. You used to be able to trust, a lot of things. But you certainly can't do that anymore. Those people take advantage of your trust more often than not. And nobody wants to deal with them. They feel like they're forced to deal with them. And that's the only reason there's a line at the bank.
And the worst thing about it is those people are trained to take advantage of people.
That's
and
right.
They don't even know it. A banker, a person at a hospital, a teacher, like all these people that you come in contact with on a day-to-day basis that get any personal information off of you, they don't realize that they're being trained in the process of using that information against you. I mean, for example, if you're a woman and you're pregnant and you go and you smoke a little bit of weed, God forbid a doctor does a blood test on you. Next thing you know, you got a DCFS case open on you because they took, private information from your blood, and told it to somebody else. And they'll put it in the disguise of, you're hurting your child. And where in there is freedom?
Nowhere that I can see.
And they think that they're doing their civic duty. And they literally hide and deceive people behind the common good.
That's right. And before we move on to the next topic, another word for our public service announcement. Very important public service announcement. Waldo Cooney's Pizza, Marlboro Man's favorite pizza, would like to remind you that family time is very important and to spend one night a week eating together. Just sit around a pizza, watch a movie, and make it a family night. Communicate with each other. Learn what your own family is all about, because it is only through unity and family that we can actually stand up against any of this tyranny. That very important public service announcement brought to you by Waldo Cooney's Pizza, Marlboro Man's favorite pizza. They put the pepperoni right inside there. I don't know how they do. Anyway, back to the show.
All right, so our next topic is going to be anarchy. And a lot of misconceptions about what anarchy is. And my favorite, of course, is always, I like wordplay and I like language a lot. So I'm going to take the word and dissect it down. A lot of people, the reason why they have a lot of misconceptions about anarchy is they think it's chaos, when anarchy is the natural order of the world. So, for example, if you look at the word anarchy, I'm going to split it into two pieces. A-N, means without in Latin, and archy means rulers. So it doesn't mean without rules, it means without rulers. There are no kings, there are no presidents, there are no prime ministers, there are no bosses, there are no people on top of there cannot be a small select group of people placed on a higher pedestal than the rest of the general public. It's just not allowed. Everybody is equal. And it says in the Bible that all men and women are kings and queens under the eyes of God. Everybody is sovereign. And that's what anarchy basically means, is you are a sovereign citizen. You own yourself. Self-ownership is a right, and it should be taught in schools. And that you have a right to your labor. You have a right to your ideas and thoughts. Freedom of speech. you have a right to defend yourself and choose a means of self-defense that suits you best, whether that's learning martial arts or carrying a gun, even walking around with sticks and stones, or even a sword, for crying out loud. Like, my best example of explaining what anarchy is literally an RPG game, a role-playing game. You're literally a character running around the free open world, and how are you going to go across the free open world if you have no items, if you have no means of self-defense? I mean, anybody can come and rob you at this point, whether it's the government or the thugs, or the government is the thugs that control all the little thugs, basically. And
I'd like to point out too something very important: the difference between leaders and rulers. It's very important everyone knows that rulers are charged with humanity's destruction, whereas leaders are charged with humanity's preservation.
Or you could put it this way, where rulers put themselves on top of people, leaders put themselves in front of people.
That's right. And we do. We're always out in front of our people.
Always out in front.
Always taking the hits.
Always do being the sword and the shield. But you know what? I'm glad that I'm the leader of the group that I'm in, because I do fight for those who can't fight for themselves. Because, not that I do it because it makes me feel good, but I do it because I know it's right.
That's right. And staying on the side of right is very, very important. Remember, we get to make the decisions that most people can't make, the right decisions.
Or the decisions they're afraid to make, because even though they know it's the right decision, they're afraid to make that decision because they think that cops are going to show up.
You're afraid of being singled out, yeah.
Yeah, or they're going to get thrown in a cage. The threat of violence from the authorities, guys.
That's right. And capitalism is another one of our topics tonight. And I'd like to point out that capitalism is not what people think it is. I identified as a capitalist before I actually found out what capitalism was. People are under the impression that capitalism is where you make as much money as you want to and the sky's the limit and you can kind of do whatever you want and operate how you like, and that's not the case with capitalism. They're actually telling you in the word itself, capitalism, they're putting a cap on it. So in other words, there's always only going to be so much money you can make if you're, say, a teacher or a fireman or a policeman or whatever it is. You're capped. There's only so much that you can possibly make, and you can't make any more than that.
Like a good example is when you're in high school or grade school, and they tell you, oh, you could be a teacher or a doctor or a lawyer, and you can make up to, those are the key words, up to. And I learned this working in marketing. They'll say, a teacher can make up to $100,000. Well, why can't a teacher make more than $100,000? Why can't they make $200,000 or $400,000 or 10 million? Why does it stop or capped off at $100,000? That's literally what it means. And then you look at the different jobs, and they literally value each job at a different level of minimum wage or maximum wage. You know what I mean?
Well, we don't want any teachers actually getting paid for being good. That wouldn't work.
No, or teachers that are getting paid for actually teaching and having the kids do critical thinking.
What we practice is something called inner monarch, outer anarch. That is where you get to make as much money as you possibly can, and the sky is the limit. And you have no limitations on what you can do or how you can do that.
Like, the one thing that really pisses me off sometimes is when I talk to people on Facebook, and they'll ask me, I tell them, when they ask me, what do I believe in, and I tell them I'm an anarchist, first and foremost. And they're like, oh, are you an anarcho-capitalist or an anarcho-communist? And I said, I hate using labels like that in the first place, Because one, anarchy is supposed to be unity, okay? And when they create those, like, labels within that label, they're just dividing us up even more.
It's almost as if those people are working for somebody else.
Almost. And
pushing a hidden agenda.
Exactly. And then on top of that, like, I have an understanding of the natural order. If I, through my own labor, decide to trade or sell my labor or work or services with another person freely, I believe I have a right to charge and to do what I want with it. So if I'm a teacher and I do teaching services, I should be able to value my teaching services. And they'll be like, Ann, well, what's stopping you from charging $1 million for your teaching services? And it's like, well, first off, I want somebody to purchase my teaching services. So why would I sit there and charge $1 million for my teaching services when in the true free market, if there's 50 other teachers lined up behind me with different prices for the same, services, that person should be free to choose.
Aside from that, who's going to get paid more? The teacher that is being paid by each student a certain amount of money through grants or loans or whatever, or even if it's out of their own pocket, or the teacher who gives it away for free and actually teaches the kids how to make money on their own. Wouldn't that teacher be more appreciated by their students and therefore be paid voluntarily after those kids put that information to good use?
Right, I believe so.
I think that teacher would get a lot more money.
And I feel the same way because I am a teacher and I feel that I would do my job for free. I really would, especially if people gave me an opportunity to prove to them that I'm a very adept teacher, Montessori style teaching, and I feel that if they really appreciate my teaching services, they would give me money for how well I do instead of capping me off at whatever the system deems that I should be making.
And that's another reason why we need to support charities and start our own charities and nonprofits. And America used to be actually practically invented the nonprofit. Used to be number one when it came to charitable giving and having charities, and everybody knew what charity to go to when they needed help. And here's the key difference: when things were like that, people appreciated that help even more and then became a part of the charity and in turn were charitable toward other people, as opposed to now where they can just turn to the Department of Human Services. That sounds really that sounds really loving, doesn't it? The Department of Human Service. So it's just a service now.
And it sounds so funny because if you look at the word department, it's department. So it's like splitting.
Right.
Departing of people.
Yeah. Yeah, and the people who get help from the Department of Human Services know they have to do it. They have to get it. They're entitled to it. So they don't show any appreciation to the people who actually pay for it, which is everybody else.
Which leads us into
that means that I can help somebody and they can show me no appreciation or gratitude whatsoever and still get away with it.
Well, like I said, which also leads into our other topic, which is the polar opposite of capitalism, socialism, where they believe everybody has to have the same and nobody could be independent or have their own way of doing stuff. Even though capitalism isn't that either, because capitalism doesn't believe in individuality or truly selling yourself on the free market because they cap you off on stuff. But socialism believes that everybody's got to get the same amount of food, the same amount of pay, the same amount of housing, the same amount of stuff. Like, everything's got to be the same. And we all have to share it, too, on top of that. So even if I, through my own labor, being a teacher, I have to share my services to other people who had nothing to do with my teaching whatsoever.
Well, and the main problem with socialism, too, is that it only works with a certain number of people, which means once you go past the number of the population, however many people that you can sustain, once you're past that, it's no longer sustainable. So what do we do with those extra people? That's kind of scary.
Yeah.
I wonder what they do with those extra people in socialist country. Oh, yeah. Let's take a break here for just a moment for yet another very important public service announcement. Homelessness is such an important issue in this show, and we would like to point out that a new outfit can change the way the homeless can feel about themselves. Abel DeValente, Dry Cleaning and Tailoring, wants to urge you to drop off gently used and clean clothing at your local donation boxes. They're everywhere. You'll see these donation boxes everywhere, and you simply just drop off your gently used clothing or other items into those boxes, and homeless people can use them. This, a very important public service announcement brought to you by Abel DeValente, Dry Cleaning and Tailoring Services.
Okay, so going back to socialism, like I said, they don't believe in individuality. They believe everybody has to be the same. So if you ever saw the movie or read the book The Giver, it's literally a blasé, gray area. There's no color. Everybody has to wear like a good example of also looking at it is, North Korea. Everybody has to wear the same clothes. There's only like 20 haircuts that you got to pick and choose from because everybody's got to have the same.
I think they're all the Moe haircut too, from like the Three Stooges.
Right?
They're all pictures
Just
of Moe on the wall.
slightly different. They got the men's Moe and the women's Moe. But, I guess it makes you feel a little bit unique. And then they got the same clothes that they have to wear, and they have to share those clothes. Everybody's divvied out the same amount of food, and you have to live on it till your next, batch of food, whenever that So it's,
Oh, language.
Oh, yeah, sorry. My bad. I could probably bleep that.
We are constantly trying to make our show better, and we are actively trying to make a clean show for you, just so you're aware of that, audience.
I know. I apologize. So going back to the topic, yeah, so whenever whenever the food decides to come in, you have to make that stretch to the next time they decide to ship more food to you. So at what point, is that, how is that helping you? How is that making your life better? Do you think having your food limited and restricted makes you conserve it better? Or do you think it oppresses you even more? Because, you would think that if you were able to feed yourself in the ways that you want, you'd be able to feed yourself freely.
You would think so.
But you don't.
No.
You're literally restricted, and you're bound by these rules of how much you can eat, when you can eat it, where you can eat it. And that's not just with food, it's with everything. Medical care, school, like it goes with everything after that. It's like entertainment. North Korea literally has like 3 channels, and they're all about their leader.
All of them? Wow. They don't even have one channel with like Donald Duck or something?
No.
No?
No, that's too American and uplifting for them. They have to be, blah.
Why would they want to look at Donald Duck? He's an idiot.
I was always a fan, but, well, he's hard to understand, that's for sure.
Yeah, hard to understand.
I was more of an Uncle Scrooge type of guy. I liked him and the nephews, Huey, Dewey, and Louie.
Yeah.
That just went way over your head.
Okay. Yeah.
He meant
I know what
our
he meant.
great leader.
I know what he meant.
Well, everybody else is great leader because I'm an anarchist. I don't believe in, having a president.
Hey, speaking of food, if you guys are hungry this Sunday night at 5 p.m. at George's Tavern on Stanley by the Berwyn train station and Oak Park Avenue in Stanley. There's George's Tavern there. We are having our first Outer Heaven Ministries benefit there, and we will have free food for everybody. So I hope you're hungry Sunday night. Come one, come all. You will enjoy some great entertainment provided by yours truly, Marlboro Man and Anarchist from We Have a Mutiny Radio. A couple of special guests will also be joining us that evening. Should be a lot of fun. I know it's going to be a lot of fun. And we'll also be raffling off an electric guitar and possibly some other prizes as well. But if you're a musician and you need a new electric guitar, I would definitely attend June 3rd, Sunday evening at 5 p.m. at George's Tavern on Stanley and Oak Park Avenue. Remember, there'll be free food, and we're auctioning off an electric guitar. So for the price of a mere raffle ticket, you could be going home jamming.
All right. So if anything, we went through a few topics today: Christianity, government, capitalism, socialism, anarchy. And they're all very different topics, but they all converge. They really do. Because if you think about it, Christianity teaches anarchy. Jesus wanted everybody to be free. As much as a lot of people argue about the Old Testament God and that part of the Bible was very oppressive and stuff, but if you read into Jesus' teachings, you'll see that he teaches about anarchy. He himself is an anarchist, wanting to free the people from their enslavement, from the pharaohs, from the Caesars, from all of the leaders and rulers of the time that oppressed the people.
And take special note, nowhere in the Bible will you see Jesus using violence.
Yes, he does.
Yes, he does.
The money changers.
Yep.
He took the whip to them.
Yep, knowing that, he also trashed the temple.
And he trashed the temple.
So try again.
Yep.
I wouldn't consider that violence.
It's
it
still
is.
Violence.
Because at the same time, they were not going to leave willingly. I can argue this point. Because the money changers were there to make money. You think you're going to... It's like a bank. You think the bank's going to just up and leave leave all its money there? No.
No, they're going to pull out their...
What Jesus did was take the whip to them. He went and took the switch to their butts and told them, get out of here. How dare you, treat the people like this and steal from them. Same thing with the temple. It was a fake church. And he was trying to show the people that this church was a fake church that was there to rob them and to make them pay for their faith.
Well, I guess I stand corrected. I guess what I was trying to get at, though, was he wasn't going around blowing up buildings or anything like that.
Oh, well, of course he didn't, there was no such thing as...
He was not leading an army of, killers against Caesar or anything like that.
Militia.
That's what I was getting
If you think about it, technically his ministry was his army.
And I suppose what you said falls under the category of do no harm, but take no aggression.
Right, so those money
were
changers,
aggressive acts.
The money changers were aggressive because they wanted their money and their tithing, and they literally oppressed the people to get that money and tithing out of that. That is a form of violence, just like holding back food from people, like in North Korea, is still considered violence against the people.
Well, I'm very glad that I was corrected, because that certainly clears that up.
Water being held back and poisoned.
Water being held back. There's a lot of people, because I don't believe that in the way how they teach Jesus to sit there and turn another cheek. What they mean by that is to learn how to forgive those who did follow that left-hand path, because at the end of the day, after he took the switch to them, he still prayed for them and for them to find their way back to God and truth.
That is
okay? True. He didn't sit there and say, oh, well, they deserve to burn in hell. All right? He believed that people are independent and should be able to make right choice over wrong choice. And that's where a lot of people get that confused.
Well, I'm proud to see you have quite a bit of insight on that, Miss Archist.
Well, that's Eastern Orthodox Christianity versus Western Orthodox, which teaches us that we should not be allowed to use aggression back. When obviously government and capitalism and socialism is clearly violence against the people, but we're afraid to use violence back towards them because, God forbid, you stand for your own principles.
And with that, I think we're going to have to wrap up this episode of We Have a Mutiny Radio. I think it was a great show, everybody. Good job. We got to cover a lot of interesting topics. We were able to get some more information out there, see some new information. Even I learned something on this show. And I think for the moment it's going to be Marlboro Man from WHAM Radio, because we have a mutiny, people. Signing out.
This is Anarchist coming to you from the dark side of the moon, and I'll be signing out as well.